Good evening, everybody. Give me like 2 seconds as I get myself situated here, making sure I have everything pulled up. Alrighty, as you've already heard, my name is Zoe Watts, and I serve here as the Student Ministry Director, and tonight I am going to be sharing about God's faithfulness in my life. I'm going to need you to stick with me here as this story is going to kind of jump around in time a lot, but it took me just a few years, maybe more than a few, to fully see the picture that God has been painting and this faithfulness that I'm sure is going to continue both into my past as I continue to reflect and into my future. All right, this story begins in the summer of 2019, where junior counselor, just out of high school, pastor's kid Zoe, would tell you that I have no idea what my faith story is. Or more accurately, I would have told you that my faith story seemed pretty uneventful. I don't really have that aha moment, the one that seems to be the thing that people will talk about and share about, where they suddenly go from not believing to believing, and it's this big moment, and it's memorable. And I just don't seem to have that, or especially then, I would say I did not have that. As far back as I can remember, I've believed in God. Now jumping back even just a smidge from summer 2019, just to the beginning of summer 2019, as a junior camp counselor, there were a lot of question marks for me. A few weeks prior, I had just finally decided what college I was going to go to. I definitely took my time deciding. And even kind of last minute had decided to be a camp counselor. It had not been my original plan to work at camp the summer before college. I thought it would be much wiser to work there after my freshman year. But with some unexplained peace and calling, I just really felt God calling me and drawing me to camp that summer in 2019. And he seemed to disagree with me that working my first summer at camp in 2020 was a good idea. No idea why. So there I was at camp in Iowa, the one that my family had attended family camp, coming to a point where I realized I had to ask myself an important question. Did I believe what I was preaching to campers? I probably should have wrestled with that question a little bit more before I got on the plane to Iowa, but there we were. But up until that point, I had just had this deep sense of peace. So I was starting to struggle with that question. Now, I'm sure most of you are trying to guess where this story is going and are hoping that, yep, you had a great summer, you had the aha moment, now I believe that you believe, let's get home by 7, let's get out of here. Well, you'd be partly right. I did have the absolute best summer ever. I made some great friends, and I saw God showing up each week, providing me with what I needed. But I came away feeling once again certain in what I believed, which is a great thing, but I also felt like that aha moment still wasn't there. I kind of felt like I walked away feeling the way I did all through high school. All through high school, I'd had moments where I would stop and be like, wait, is this actually what I believe? I'd sit with it, and I'd be like, no, this is what I believe. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. So I came away from the summer feeling great. I felt like my faith had been strengthened. I felt like I trusted God more and more, and I could see the ways he'd shown up that summer and the ways that he'd given me energy when I was exhausted, seeing campers really be touched. But I didn't feel like I really walked away all that changed. But I was so excited for summer 2020. As you already gathered, summer 2020 didn't really work out the way I had expected, as camp was canceled that year. So we got to skip forward to summer 2021. Like a lot of folks, 2020 was a rough year for me. I was really looking forward to going back to camp, where the theme was brand new. And that really struck a chord with me, because before I had found out what the theme was, I had been praying to God, I need a fresh start. I need to feel new. I want to feel brand new. I want both a fresh start in my life, but also in my faith. I want to feel like a reset. But yet again, summer 2021 ended up looking a little different than 2019. In 2021, the camp was running on at best half a staff worth of summer staff and a full camp of campers. Reflecting back now, I can see that God was working in mighty ways as we were all doing the work of about 3 people. But by God's grace, not a single counselor got COVID that summer or really sick at all. We all managed to power through. But that summer was hard. Probably the hardest week of camp for me was the week I was sent to our youth camp. We had multiple different sites, and one week I was sent specifically to be at youth camp on a week that's normally a more difficult week for our camp. And I was sent to be there with middle schoolers. And if you've spent much time with middle schoolers, you know that can be a little chaotic. But I was blessed to have one of the sweetest group of girls that week. And they were all experiencing faith and coming to Jesus, which was so cool, and it was totally what I expected. What I didn't expect was we probably set a record that week for nurse visits, ranging everywhere from bruises and scrapes. One girl right at the beginning of the night throwing up in the middle of the cabin floor from dehydration, and personal favorite that I hope and pray will never be topped, a dislocated shoulder. But it was a big range of nurse visits that week. But it was still really great, but not stressful at all. Now, what you also need to know about being a youth camp counselor is you get 1 hour of break each day. You're on for 23 hours, but you get 1 hour. And some of the days I use that hour to take a nap. Some of them I use to get ready for other activities. Some I spent just sitting in silence with the other counselors in the dining hall. We kind of all looked dead. But being the amazing granddaughter I am, one of my hours I spent calling my grandpa for his birthday. Now, on a day that I should have been calling to tell him how amazing he is and how grateful I am for him, he totally flipped the script on me, and instead he told me how proud he is of me. He told me how he looks at my life and my siblings' lives as this amazing continuation and great growth and even betterment of the faith that he and my grandma taught to their kids. He told me how proud he and all of my grandparents, including the ones who are up in heaven, were of me. And he is certain that everyone is looking down and so proud. Pretty sure I nearly cried. It was in the midst of the just general camp exhaustion of running on half a staff and just generally being a camp counselor. And this crazy week where things just kept seeming to go wrong. And here I was just feeling this immense sense of love, not only from my family, but from God. And it was that same sense of peace that came over me and really just felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where God has called me to be. So I felt lifted up with new strength that was definitely not coming from me and gave me energy and joy to finish the summer strong. Well, as you can tell, that encouragement from my grandpa really stuck with me. But it wasn't until recently that it started to connect into this greater picture of God's faithfulness. And it was actually a conversation with my grandpa that it clicked with me what my faith story really is. Really quick, if you don't know, my grandparents actually attend CLC, Don and Mary Post. They're awesome. You should say hi to them afterwards. But because I have moved up here recently, I have the absolute pleasure of getting to go get meals with them more often, like Sunday afternoon lunches. And it was one of these lunches where me and my grandpa started chatting, and he told me the story about how he sees that his life and my mom's mom, who sadly passed away when I was 3, all leading up to me and my family. He told me specifically a story from his own childhood, and it goes like this. Feel free to fact check with him afterwards. So a long, long time ago, in a year that I have already forgotten, my great-grandparents decided that it was time for their young son, maybe he was like 5, to go to Sunday school. They knew that there was a Lutheran Church down the way, so my grandpa was dropped off on his own at church to be Christianized by Sunday school. Around when he was 8, I think, he, in the car ride home, announced to his parents, "Well, that's it. I'm not going to Sunday school anymore." And they asked him, "Oh, why is that?" And he said, "Well, if you don't have to go to church, then neither do I." They must have thought he had a point, because the very next week, they were all going to church together. A little bit later, my great-grandparents even joined a Bible study. One day, my great-grandparents decided that my grandpa really should be baptized. It was time. When they were there getting ready for a private service for him to be baptized, the pastor turned to my great-grandfather and asked him if he had been baptized. And he said, "I probably was at some point, but I don't remember." The pastor offered to baptize him too, and that's the story of how Don Post Sr. and Don Post Jr. were baptized together. Fast forward a bit, Don and Nancy Post have 3 kids, 2 sons, and 1 amazing daughter, my mom. They continue to go to church and teach their children about God. Fast forward a little bit more, my mom decided to attend Seattle Lutheran Bible Institute, where she met Zoe Watts, and they were both studying youth ministry. They got married and both served at Lutheran churches in Southern California and had the most amazing first kid, first granddaughter, first niece, easiest baby ever, never a problem, practically perfect in every way, me. Eventually, God called my dad to serve as the youth minister at a church in Texas and later to be the youth and family pastor at Faith Lutheran Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where he now actually serves as the senior pastor. New Mexico is where my 3 siblings and I, Liberty Lutheran Faith, all grew up. I think there's a picture, hopefully. Sweet. This is my family. Thought I'd show a picture. Going from left to right, it's my mom, me, my dad, my sister Faith, she's the youngest, my brother Luther, my sister Liberty. We're at In-N-Out because we're obsessed with In-N-Out, and there's no In-N-Out in New Mexico. It's a tragedy. But I tell you all that to tell you this. Isaiah 38, verse 19. The living, he thanks you. As I do this day, the Father makes known to the children your faithfulness. This verse is in essence my faith story. The Father teaching his children. The accumulation of all my great-grandparents did, all my grandparents did, and all my parents did, in leading us to Christ is the ultimate faith story. It's not just about my faith to God, it's about his faithfulness to me and to my family. Looking back on even the last few years, I can see how many times God has pointed out how it's not about what I'm doing, but about what he did and what he's doing and has done. I now see that he placed me at camp in 2019, not only to pour out to others, but also to have my faith strengthened right before a trialing year. I see God faithfully guiding me in watching my parents teach students about God for over 20 years. I see his faithfulness in the amazing way he led me here to CLC. I see that it wasn't about how much faith I had to have or have a big moment of faith, but it was all about what he did. It's not all about me. It's not about all I did and overcame to become a Christian. It's about how much he did and overcame to get me. It's about how even when I'm uncertain where God is, he's certain where he is, and he's certain about where I am. He used the family before me to pour into me and my best friends, aka my siblings. God is powerful enough even to use small things and small moments to do what seemed impossible. So now, if you ask me what my faith story is, I will most probably still tell you that by myself it's pretty uneventful. Because I can now see that it was never about how good my faith is and totally about God's faithfulness to me. So, to conclude, my faith story is thus. The faithfulness of my great-grandparents, my grandparents, and my parents in leading their children to Christ gave me the opportunity to know God from a very young age. Sometimes it's not about a big moment with God, but about all the little ones where he worked in big ways. It's about Jesus coming and dying for my sin and raising from the dead. My faith story is that my faith is slowly growing and shaping throughout my life as I walk with God and trust that he is there, working even when I don't see it at first. Before I forget, the song I picked for tonight is called In the Secret. I actually didn't know this was an old song. Everyone has just now informed me of that. It was a song that we sang a lot one of the summers. It might have been 21 or 22, can't remember. But we sang it a lot at our gospel presentation night. It was one of my favorites. And for me, it's a reminder and a prayer to God that I want to know him more. I want to continue to know him better every day. I want to see the ways he's working, even the ways that could easily be missed. I want to see less of me and more of him. Thanks, guys. That's all I got.
Thank you, Zoe. If you guys haven't already met her and adore her, I'm sure we all adore her even more now. We're so grateful for you. In the secret, in the quiet place, in the stillness, you are there. In the secret, in the quiet hour, I wait, 'cause I want to know you more. I want to know you. I want to hear your voice. I want to know you more. I want to touch you. I want to see your face. I want to know you more. I am reaching for the highest goal, that I might receive the prize. Pressing onward, pushing every hindrance aside, out of my way, 'cause I want to know you more. I want to know you. I want to hear your voice. I want to know you more. I want to touch you. I want to see your face. I want to know you more. I want to know you. I want to hear your voice. I want to know you more. I want to touch you. I want to see your face. I want to know you